The Orc Queen discovered her guard's secret love for her, then summoned him to her private chamber. Marianne knew the wine was poisoned before the silver cup finished falling. It struck the council floor and split at the rim. Dark wine spread across white stone, while a black line climbed beneath the parrot-green skin of her wrist. Chief Advisor Caspard rose first. "My queen." General Kelric reached for his sword. Captain Celine ordered the doors sealed. Marianne trusted all three of them. That meant one of them had betrayed her. She forced herself into a servant's passage before weakness exposed her. Rain blew through a shattered window. Her golden crown caught against the frame, slipped from her hair, and disappeared into the courtyard mud. At the western stairs, her legs finally failed. Robinson, the poorest human guard in the palace, caught her before her head struck stone. He wore a patched uniform, carried a rusted spear, and had spent 6 years being ignored by everyone important. Marianne seized his shirt. "Do not take me to the royal healers." Robinson stared at the black veins spreading toward her elbow. "Then you will die." "The person who poisoned me sits beside my throne." Her fingers tightened around him. "Never let them know you saved me." By sunrise, the kingdom would accuse Robinson of kidnapping its queen, and before the week ended, Marianne would discover that the forgotten guard hiding her in his cottage had been secretly falling in love with her. Welcome to OrcBond Saga, where forbidden love must survive betrayal, duty, and the hatred of two divided worlds. Stay until the final moment, because the secret Marianne uncovers inside a poor guard's heart will become more dangerous than the crown she lost in the mud. Rain followed Robinson through the capital. It ran from his hair into his eyes, soaked his patched uniform, and turned the river quarter roads into brown channels of water. Queen Marianne was nearly a head taller than him and heavy with wet armor. Every few steps his knees threatened to fold beneath her weight. 5 bells rang from the palace towers. Robinson knew every signal. 1 bell meant a missing prisoner. 3 meant armed attack. 5 meant royal blood was in danger. He looked down at the unconscious orc held against him. Her long black hair clung to his sleeve. 1 white tusk rested near his shoulder. Her fingers still gripped the front of his shirt, as though even unconscious she feared he might abandon her. He should have taken her to the palace infirmary. But her warning remained in his mind. "The person who poisoned me sits beside my throne." The infirmary stood inside the same palace. Robinson turned away from the bells. His cottage waited beside an abandoned mill where tax collectors visited more often than soldiers. The roof had been patched with old sailcloth. 3 rows of winter onions grew behind a crooked fence. A small wooden bird hung above the door, carved by Robinson's father before illness weakened his hands. Inside, poverty was visible, but carefully managed. The floor was swept. Firewood was stacked by size. A cracked bowl had been repaired with copper wire. A thin blanket covered the only bed. Robinson laid Marianne down and cut away the dark cloth surrounding the wound beneath her ribs. Her eyes opened. Her hand closed around his throat. His heels lifted from the floor. Even poisoned, she could have crushed his windpipe. Robinson did not reach for his knife. He raised the blood-stained cloth between them. "If you kill me, you will need to treat yourself." Her amber eyes sharpened. "Your name?" "Robinson." "Rank?" "Low enough that no one checks whether I'm alive." "Where am I?" "My home. You removed me from the palace. You told me not to take you to the healers. I did not tell you to abduct me. You were unconscious during the discussion." Her grip loosened. Robinson dropped back onto his feet and rubbed his throat. "What should I call you?" A pause. "Mara." It was not entirely false. Her younger brother had called her Mara before the crown turned every word around her into ceremony. Robinson mixed powdered charcoal with boiled water and marshroot. His father had repaired armor for border guards, smugglers, and caravan soldiers. Many paid with medicinal knowledge instead of coins. The black veins beneath Marianne's skin resembled frost flower poison. "Drink." Her eyes narrowed. "Humans do not command orcs. Poison does not respect species. For one brief moment, surprise replaced pride. Then she drank. Robinson cleaned the puncture, packed it with bitterroot, and wrapped her side using strips cut from his only clean undershirt. His hands were rough but careful. "Too tight?" he asked. "No." "That means yes. It means no. You also said your name was Mara." Her gaze hardened. Robinson returned to the bandage. A line of blood had dried near the base of her right tusk. Without thinking, he wet a cloth and wiped it away. Marianne went completely still. Among the Iron Clans, only family, healers, or lovers were permitted to touch an orc's tusks. Robinson knew none of that. He looked only at the blood. When he stepped back, a strand of her hair had caught around a button on his sleeve. He moved, gently pulling her head with him. They stopped too close together. Robinson's face warmed. "Sorry." He carefully unwound the strand. Marianne watched his fingers. Kings had praised her beauty before crowded halls. Generals had offered victories in her name. Nobles had promised loyalty while calculating what it might purchase. Robinson freed one strand of hair as though it mattered simply because it belonged to a person in pain. No audience, no reward. That frightened her more than ambition. He covered her with his blanket and placed his own coat over her feet. "You are cold," she said. "I am beside a fire. You are shivering. I often do that around expensive guests." Was that humor? Not successful humor. Robinson sat near her damaged armor. The leather strap had torn. He cut a strip from his own belt, then practiced carving the wolfen crown symbol on scrap leather before touching the real piece. Marianne watched through half-closed eyes. He polished mud from the silver wolves with his sleeve. His fingers slowed when they reached the golden crest. The crown had slipped beneath her cloak during the escape. Robinson saw the edge of it near her shoulder. He reached toward it, then stopped. It felt wrong to place his hand on something made for rulers. He covered it again. Marianne saw the hesitation. Every ambitious person she knew reached for crowns. This man withdrew his hand. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Robinson continued working. "Because you were dying. You did not know me. Dying people do not become less important because they are strangers. That is not how kingdoms work. No. That is why kingdoms keep needing guards." She watched him for a long time after that. During the night, fever pulled names from her. Tarek, Selene, Kaelric, Caspard. Robinson heard all three living names. Any one of them could have poisoned her. Near dawn, Marianne woke to find him asleep beside the door, with a repair hammer in one hand. His head rested against the wall. A pale scar crossed one eyebrow. Without the careful stillness of a palace guard, he looked younger. Marianne reached toward his hand. She told herself she only wanted to move the hammer. Instead, her fingers closed around him for one heartbeat. Robinson shifted. She released him and turned toward the hearth. Outside, patrolmen nailed a notice to the mill wall. Robinson woke at the hammering. The notice carried his name and a rough drawing of his face. Wanted for the kidnapping of Queen Marianne. Robinson entered the cottage holding the paper. He looked at the royal armor, then at the signet ring, then at Marianne. "You are the queen." "Yes, you could have told me. I could not know whether you were loyal. I cut apart my shirt to keep you alive. I know, I gave you my bed. I know, I walked away from 5 royal bells. I know, he turned away. His anger would have been easier for her to face. What appeared in him was disappointment. Marianne had spent her reign fearing assassins, rebellion, and the loss of her crown. For the first time, she feared losing something less powerful and far more personal. She feared losing the only man who had looked at her without wanting anything. Then, a second notice appeared outside. This one offered enough gold for Robinson's capture to feed the entire river quarter through winter. By sunrise, every hungry neighbor he had ever helped would have a reason to betray him. Robinson barred the door. "We cannot stay here." Marianne tried to stand. Pain forced her back onto the bed. You cannot walk. I can. You almost fell while saying that. I have commanded armies with worse injuries. Did the armies wait politely while you collapsed? She glared at him. Robinson examined the marshroot jar, almost empty. The poison may return. I need more of this, and a proper antidote. From where? The underground market beneath the old tannery. No, Robinson looked at her. No, you are being hunted. So are you. I am more difficult to arrest. Not while wearing my father's coat in my bed. Marianne opened her mouth and then closed it. Robinson handed her a small work knife. She examined it. This is not a weapon. It is as if your enemy is an onion. He pointed toward the pantry. There is a tunnel beneath the floorboards. Use it if anyone enters. Why does your cottage have a tunnel? My father repaired armor for men who disliked taxation. You trusted smugglers. He trusted anyone who paid half in advance. Robinson left through the back door. The moment he disappeared, the cottage seemed colder. Marianne rose carefully and moved through the small room. 4 steps carried her from bed to hearth. She found 3 unfinished wooden birds on a shelf. Beneath the table rested a pair of children's boots repaired with fresh soles. A note had been tied to them for Tovin, no payment. Beside the window sat a pile of bird seed. A river crow landed outside and pecked the glass. Marianne stared at it. Your kind steals his bread. The crow pecked again. She opened the window and placed seed on the ledge. You will tell no one. The bird ate without promising. Marianne turned and noticed a narrow chair leg that had been reinforced with 3 careful pieces of wood. Robinson had repaired it so neatly the damage was almost invisible. She ran one finger along the joint. Even his furniture had been given another chance. Every king she knew tried to impress her. Every general tried to earn her respect. Every noble wanted something. Robinson simply fixed broken things when no one watched. His goodness did not require witnesses. That realization reached somewhere the court never had. She found the practice leather he had used before repairing her. Armor, the royal crest had been carved repeatedly. The first attempt was rough. The final one almost matched the original. Beside it lay a folded cloth stained with her blood. Every other bandage had been washed. This one had been preserved. Marianne touched it. A healer might keep blood to study poison. A guard might practice a crest. To avoid damaging royal armor, a poor man might sacrifice his belt because he owned no better leather. Each reason made sense alone. Together, they suggested something else. Robinson admired her. Perhaps he did not yet understand how deeply. Perhaps he did and was trying to hide it. He returned an hour later, soaked and breathing hard. In one hand he carried a marshroot. In the other, a small blue vial. You were at my workbench. Your carving improved. His gaze moved toward the leather. It needed to match. Why? You would have noticed a poor repair. I noticed you used your belt. It was available. Marianne lifted the folded bandage. And this? Robinson's ears reddened. Poison can change after drying. Has it? No. Yet you kept it. He looked toward the fire. Marianne stepped closer. Look at me, Robinson. He did. Do humans always avoid the eyes of women they admire? You are not simply a woman. What am I? My queen. Do not call me that. A quiet pause. What should I call you? Marianne's voice softened. The woman you have been trying very hard not to admire. Robinson backed into the table. One button on his shirt hung by a loose thread. Marianne reached up and straightened it, her knuckles brushing his throat. You repaired everything. Not everything. You repaired my armor. It was torn. You repaired the child's boots. They needed soles. You feed the bird that steals from you. It becomes loud when hungry. Marianne studied him. Does every kindness require an excuse? Robinson looked away first. A knock struck the door. 3 slow blows. He immediately stepped in front of Marianne. A woman outside called herself Marianne, a palace laundry worker. She claimed Captain Celine had sent her. Robinson opened the door only a hand's width. Marianne stood in the rain, with wet hair stuck to her face. A bruise darkened one cheek. She carried a blood-stained ledger. "A guard died getting this out," she whispered. "He said the human from the Western Passage would know what to do." Robinson accepted the book. Inside were altered patrol schedules, payments to mercenaries, and references to 7 prepared wine cups. Caspard Noir's private mark appeared at the bottom. Marianne read it twice. "It is false." Marianne flinched. Robinson frowned. "You cannot know that. It gives us everything we need without requiring us to discover anything. She risked her life bringing it, or she risked nothing because she expected us to believe she had." Marianne's eyes filled with tears. Robinson opened the door wider. "You should come inside." "No," Marianne said. The refusal was sharp enough to wound. Marianne lowered her head. "I understand. Or queens have little reason to trust human servants." She disappeared into the rain. Robinson shut the door. "You humiliated her. I kept a stranger. Outside the room where I'm hiding. You treat frightened people as though they are tools in another person's hand. And you treat frightened faces as proof of honesty. Sometimes compassion requires risk. Sometimes survival requires suspicion." They stood on opposite sides of the table. The warmth between them cooled neither. Knew Marianne had stopped behind the abandoned mill wall. She placed her ear against a narrow listening pipe hidden in the stones. Every word traveled through it. Before sunset, someone inside the palace knew Marianne was alive. That evening, the fever returned. Black veins reappeared beneath her wrist. Robinson gave her the blue antidote and held the cup while she drank. "You were right," she whispered. "About what?" "The poison." Would have preferred to be wrong. Her hand shook. Robinson wrapped both of his arms around it. Marianne looked down at their joined fingers. "I have ordered men into battle with steadier hands. You are ill. I am weak. That is not the same thing. In my world, they are treated the same. Then your world is wrong." She stared at him. No king had ever spoken to her that simply. No advisor had separated her body from her authority. Robinson stayed until the shaking stopped. At one point, he fell asleep beside her. A loose strand of hair rested across his forehead. Marianne brushed it back. He shifted. She immediately pretended to adjust the blanket. When he woke, her eyes were closed. Later, Robinson prepared soup. He placed the larger piece of bread beside her bowl. Marianne switched it when his back turned. He noticed and switched it back. She waited. He turned again. She moved it. After the 4th exchange, Marianne broke the loaf down the middle. One half crumbled into the soup. Robinson stared at it. Orc strength appears badly suited to baking. Human bread lacks discipline. He laughed. It was the first laugh she had pulled from him since the truth came out. Marianne felt absurd relief. That night, she watched him repair the same chair leg she had touched earlier. He worked, even though exhaustion made his hands clumsy. "You can leave it," she said. "It will break, then we will sit elsewhere. There is nowhere else. Your home has 1 chair?" "It had 2. One lost an argument with a tax collector." Marianne smiled. Robinson glanced up. She realized she had begun smiling more often around him. That frightened her almost as much as the poison. By midnight, she had made a decision. If they survived, she would summon Robinson to her private chamber, not as queen and guard, as 2 people standing too close to something neither could safely name. Outside, iron-shod boots entered the river quarter. Captain Celine led the search party. General Kaelric rode beside her. At the far end of the road, Chief Advisor Caspard Noir stepped down from a black carriage carrying a glass vial of antidote. When Celine asked why, he answered quietly, "If the Queen lives, I intend to save her." For the first time, even Marianne had reason to wonder whether the most obvious suspect might be innocent. Then Caspard looked toward the cottage and whispered to Marianne beside him, "Make certain the human believes I came to help." The search party surrounded the cottage before dawn. Wet footprints appeared across the road. Armor scraped against stone. Horses breathed steam into the cold. "Robinson!" Celine shouted. "Come outside unarmed." Robinson looked at Marianne. "You said she might be loyal." "She might be." "And Kelrick?" "He might be." "And Caspard?" Marianne listened to his calm voice outside, ordering soldiers not to damage the neighboring homes. "He might be too." Robinson stared at her. "How do you rule while trusting no one?" "With difficulty." He stepped outside. Celine stood near the gate, tall and scarred, one white tusk broken at the tip. Kelrick waited beside her in bronze armor. He was nearly 8 feet tall and broad enough to block the alley. Caspard remained near the carriage, holding the antidote. Celine drew her sword. "Where is the Queen?" Robinson said nothing. Kelrick approached. "You are a human gate guard." "Yes." "You vanished the night Marianne disappeared." "Yes." "You expect us to believe that means nothing?" "No." Kelrick struck him. Robinson hit the fence. Blood filled his mouth. The cottage door opened. Marianne stepped into the rain wearing black. Armor and Robinson's father's coat across her. Shoulders, every orc dropped to one knee. Celine's relief looked real. Kelrick's shock did too. Caspard immediately offered the antidote. "My Queen, please." Marianne accepted the vial but did not drink. "Where did you obtain it?" "From the royal physician before he disappeared." "Disappeared?" "His chamber was empty when we learned you were missing." The answer was useful, perhaps deliberately so. Marianne looked at Robinson. Blood marked his lip. He expected her to explain. Instead, she hardened her face. "Arrest him for unlawful confinement of the crown." Robinson's expression emptied. Selene chained his wrists. Kelrick asked, "Did he harm you?" "No." "Then why arrest him?" "Because I ordered it." Caspard watched. Marianne carefully. She felt his attention move between her and Robinson. Protection required cruelty. Her father had taught her that. But when Robinson was led past, disappointment in his eyes cut deeper than any blade. At the palace, Caspard greeted Marianne before the council. "You have returned to us." "My queen," he reported that he had prevented soldiers from searching the river quarter by force. He had also ordered food distributed to residents whose homes had been damaged. For one dangerous moment, he appeared not merely innocent but decent. Kelrick demanded Robinson be questioned publicly. Celine argued the Queen's wound had clearly been treated. Caspard advised patience. "We should not condemn a man before understanding what he did." Marianne looked at him. Sharply, he had defended Robinson. Why? To appear fair? To preserve a useful prisoner? Or because he was innocent? 3 suspects remained. Caspard opposed peace, but appeared protective. Kelrick possessed the army needed to seize power. Celine controlled Marianne's movements. Before questioning any of them, Marianne ordered Robinson brought to her private chamber. He arrived in chains after sunset. The chamber occupied the western tower's highest floor. Tall windows overlooked the river. Maps covered one wall. Pinewood burned beneath a carved stone arch, filling the room with resin and warmth. Robinson had guarded this door for years. He had never crossed it. Celine removed his restraints. "Call if he becomes dangerous." Robinson looked at Marianne. "That seems unlikely." Celine's mouth nearly moved toward a smile. Then she left. Robinson remained near the door. Marianne stood beside the hearth without armor. She wore a dark red robe fitted across her broad shoulders. Her hair fell loose down her back. The repaired strap from Robinson's belt rested around her waist. For several seconds, the only sound was rain against glass. "Your lip," Marianne said. "It remains attached." "Kelrick should not have struck you. You ordered my arrest." That did not give him permission to enjoy it. Robinson looked toward the windows. "Why am I here?" "To explain. You could have explained before the chains. Caspard was watching, so you humiliated me to make him believe I meant nothing." "Yes." Robinson gave a bitter laugh. "You are very skilled at making that believable." Marianne absorbed the blow. "I kept you alive. You kept my body alive. You never asked what the rest of me could survive." She had no answer. Robinson turned toward the door. Wait. He stopped. Marianne crossed to a long table. The practice leather and folded blood-stained cloth lay there. Robinson went still. You searched my home. I observed it. That sounds better when a queen says it? No. She touched the carved crest. You practiced this 6 times. The first 5 were poor. You used your belt. It was leather. You kept the bandage. Poison changes after drying. It did not. No. Then why? Robinson said nothing. Marianne approached him. Look at me. He obeyed. Do not call me queen. What should I call you? Mara. The name sounded intimate in the chamber. Robinson lowered his voice. Mara. Something inside her shifted. Thousands had shouted her royal name. No one had spoken the smaller one like that. Marianne stopped close enough to feel his breath. You repaired my armor more carefully than palace craftsmen. It belonged to you. You guarded the cottage door while you slept. You were hunted. You watched me. I checked whether you were breathing for an unusually long time. His face warmed. She lifted one hand and turned his face toward her. Do you fear me? Yes. The honesty surprised her. As queen. As someone who could ruin me without meaning to. And as Mara. Robinson did not answer. Marianne felt confidence begin to leave her. Every king who courted her wanted a treaty. Every noble wanted influence. Every warrior wanted the honor of standing beside her. Robinson wanted so little that even his desire tried to hide. Do you love me? Robinson closed his eyes. Silence stretched. I do not know when it began. That is not an answer. It began somewhere between the poison and the bread. Marianne almost smiled. Perhaps when you covered me with the blanket and called it efficiency. Perhaps when you laughed after breaking my axe. Perhaps when you spoke your brother's name as though no one had ever allowed you to miss him. He opened his eyes. I did not want anything from you. You wanted nothing? I wanted you to live. That is not nothing. I did not want my feelings to become another debt you had to pay. The words reached a place no courtier ever had. Marianne took his hand. She placed it over the copper ring hanging beneath her robe. It belonged to his father. You gave me this during the fever. You were afraid. I am queen. You were still afraid. She studied him. You never looked at my crown. You were not wearing it. You looked only at my wounds. They were killing you. Marianne's voice lowered. Power attracts loyalty. Kindness reveals it. His fingers tightened around the ring. She admitted she watched him too. She saw him feed the crow. She watched him repair children's shoes. She had smelled his father's coat after he left because it reminded her of smoke and safety. Robinson blinked. You smelled my coat? That detail is not important. It is becoming extremely important. For the first time, Marianne laughed inside her private chamber. The sound was soft and real. Robinson smiled despite himself. She raised his chin. His eyes closed. Their mouths came close. Marianne stopped. Fear returned, not afraid of him, fear of what happened after. Robinson opened his eyes. She rested her forehead against his. What if I love you too? He inhaled slowly. Then we are both in trouble. A small smile touched her mouth. That was not the answer I expected. It is the honest one. She did not step away. Neither did he. They remained forehead to forehead, breathing the same warm air. Marianne's fingers moved from his jaw to the back of his neck. Robinson's hand settled carefully at her waist, over the strap he had repaired. The touch was innocent. It still felt forbidden. Marianne whispered, I saw you reach for my crown in the cottage. Robinson stiffened. You were awake? Partly. I did not touch it. I know. Why mention it? Everyone reaches for crowns. I am not everyone. No, her eyes held his. You are not. Robinson's thumb brushed the repaired leather. Why summon me here, Mara? to discover whether I imagined what was happening between us. And did you? No. That appears to have disappointed you. It terrified me, because I am human, because you are real. She looked toward the fire. The men who caught me want the queen. You saw me poisoned, angry, frightened, hungry, and unable to stand. And still arrogant. Marianne looked back sharply. Robinson's mouth twitched. She pressed 2 fingers against his chest. You are dangerously comfortable. You summoned me privately. I could still have you thrown from the tower. Would that solve the problem? No. Her hand remained over his heart. What would you do? I do not think there is a solution. Then perhaps we will stop searching for one tonight. Robinson's breathing changed. Marianne lifted his chin again. This time she did not close the distance. She waited. Robinson understood. The queen was giving him a choice. He moved slightly closer, then stopped. I will not kiss you while you are deciding whether I am a mistake. Pain crossed her face. You are not a mistake. Then what am I? Marianne took a long breath. The first thing I wanted was to not belong to the kingdom. The answer left him unable to speak. A hard knock struck the door. Selina entered. Mirren is gone. The ledger vanished from evidence storage. A servant was found dead beneath this tower. Her gaze moved between them. Marianne's hand still rested against Robinson's chest. Selina understood. Should I return? No, Marianne said too quickly. Robinson stepped back. Selina handed over a sealed message. Kelric had formally requested Marianne's hand before the full council. Robinson read the words. His face closed. Before leaving, Marianne caught his wrist. This conversation is not finished. Selina escorted him toward the dungeon for appearances. On the stairs, she glanced at him. Did your feelings begin before or after you kidnapped the queen? I kidnapped no one. Selina almost smiled. Then she lowered her voice. If Kelric's marriage unites the clans, she may accept. Robinson stopped walking. Above them, behind a carved screen, Caspard listened. He did not smile. He simply closed his eyes and understood exactly where to place the next knife. The queen had discovered her guard's secret love. Now Caspard would force her to prove whether that love was worth losing a kingdom. Robinson remained a prisoner in public. At night, Selina escorted him through forgotten corridors so he could examine locks, wine stores, and hidden servant routes. Every political discovery pushed him and Marianne together. Every public duty forced them apart again. They searched beneath the council floor, while nobles argued overhead. Footsteps approached, while Robinson examined a hidden latch. Marianne pulled him behind a tapestry. The space was barely wide enough for her. Robinson stood pressed between the wall and her body. One hand rested beside his head. The other lay across his chest to hold him still. The footsteps stopped outside. Robinson could smell pine oil in her hair. Marianne felt his heart beating beneath her palm. After the guards moved on, neither stepped away. Fear, she whispered. Partly. What is the other part? You know. Say it. This is not the place. Coward. Queen. Her eyes narrowed. Mara. That earned him a private smile. Later, Marianne found a loose button on his shirt. Hold still. What are you doing? Preventing your clothing from collapsing. You could provide a new uniform. I could. She stitched the button with royal gold thread. Robinson glanced at a basket of plain black thread beside her. This was the only color? Yes. You lie badly about small things. I am an excellent liar. Not when you care. Her fingers paused against his chest. No, she admitted. Not then. Selina noticed everything. She warned Marianne privately. Affection makes rulers predictable. So does fear. Fear keeps queens alive. Did fear keep me alive in Robinson's cottage? Selina had no answer. Kelric applied pressure differently. During a training inspection, he handed Robinson a heavy orc shield. Hold it. Robinson gripped the straps. The weight dragged his arms down. He lasted 11 seconds. The shield hit the ground. Kelric looked unimpressed. Love does not make a human body capable of protecting an orc queen. Robinson rubbed his shoulder. She needed herbs, not a shield, when I found her. Kelric's expression hardened. Later that day, an assassin attacked them in the lower armory. The blade was aimed at Kelric. Robinson saw the attacker reflected in polished metal and shoved the general aside. The knife struck Robinson's coat. A repair hammer inside the pocket stopped it. Kelric killed the assassin with one blow. He pulled the damaged hammer free. You carry tools while hunting traitors? Broken things rarely wait for convenient moments. The assassin carried Selena's command seal. Selene was arrested. Marianne ordered it publicly. Privately, doubt tore through her. Selene had stood beside Tarek's funeral fire. She had taken a spear meant for Marianne during the Black Pass siege. Robinson examined the seal. It can be copied. You defend her because she treated you fairly. I defend her because the evidence is too perfect. You said the same about Marianne, and you were right about Marianne. You trust everyone until they become dangerous. You distrust everyone until they become useless. The words hit hard. Leave, Robinson did. At the door, Marianne noticed his sleeve had torn. Her hand lifted. Pride kept her from calling him back. That night, she found him alone in a storage corridor repairing the sleeve by lamplight. You sew badly, she said. Robinson did not look up. I learned from a man who repaired armor, not shirts. Marianne sat beside him. The corridor was narrow. Their shoulders touched. I should not have ordered you out. No. That was agreement, not forgiveness. I know. She took the needle from him. Hold still. You have already repaired one button. This is a larger disaster. As she stitched, Robinson watched her face. You skipped dinner. Marianne's hands paused. How do you know? You become more impatient when hungry. I am always impatient, more than usual. Robinson pulled a wrapped piece of bread from his pocket. I saved this. Marianne stared at the bread. You are imprisoned and still stealing food for me? I was not stealing. Selene looked away. From the corridor entrance, Selene said, I did not look away. Neither had heard her approach. Marianne accepted the bread. She broke it and gave Robinson the larger portion. He pushed it back. Selena watched them silently move the pieces between their hands. At last she muttered, I understand now why Caspard considers this relationship a military threat. Marianne laughed despite herself. The warmth lasted one evening. The next morning, Caspard brought the underground healer Selene before the council. Her fingers had been broken. Caspard appeared angry on Marianne's behalf. My queen, this woman sold frostflower poison to Robinson. Selene shook her head. She sold me the antidote, Robinson said. Caspard produced a signed market record. He offered Robinson a bargain, confessed that Selene arranged the poisoning through him, and Selene would live. Robinson looked at Selene. The drowned child returned to him, small fingers slipping from his grasp. His oldest flaw tightened around him. Every frightened person became his responsibility the moment they looked toward him. He signed. Caspard accepted the confession. Release her, Robinson said. Caspard looked regretful. I cannot. You promised. I promised mercy if the truth was useful. It is useful. Not enough. The executioner struck. Selene fell. Blood spread over the same white stone that had held Marianne's poisoned wine. Robinson lunged at Caspard. Guards restrained him. Copies of the confession spread through the city. Selene was condemned to die. Marianne entered Robinson's cell after midnight. You signed away an innocent woman's life. I signed to save another. You endangered the kingdom to save one person, and you would sacrifice one person to protect the kingdom. That is leadership. Sometimes it is cowardice to wear a crown. Marianne slapped him. The sound filled the cell. She stared at her hand in horror. Robinson said nothing. Marianne left. She returned an hour later without armor or crown. She sat beside him on the dungeon floor. I was wrong. Robinson looked at her. She forced herself to continue. I struck you because you found the place where I am most afraid. Tarek died because I chose the kingdom. I have spent years calling. That strength because the alternative was admitting I still do not know whether I chose correctly. Robinson's anger softened. I was wrong too. I signed because I cannot bear being the person who disappoints someone in danger. I believed I could control what Caspard would do. You cannot save everyone. Neither can queens. No. They sat shoulder to shoulder. Marianne reached for his hand. This time, she did not release it when he moved. Robinson looked at their fingers. I thought you hated weakness. I hate feeling powerless. They are not the same. I'm beginning to understand that. He noticed something in the confession copy. Frostflower is described as powder. Marianne looked down. It is oil. Caspard wrote this before questioning Celine. They ran. Celine's execution blade had already been raised when Marianne reached the courtyard. Stop! The weapon froze above Celine's neck. The false confession exposed Caspard's manipulation. Marianne was discovered hiding with copied seals. Caspard was arrested before the full council. Kelric stood beside Marianne. Selene was freed. By evening, palace bells rang with victory. Citizens filled the streets. For the first time, Marianne and Robinson believed they had survived. She found him near the western balcony. It is over. Robinson looked toward the city lights. Is it? Caspard is chained. Myron confessed. Selene is free. And Kelric still wishes to marry you. Marianne said nothing. Robinson laughed without humor. The kingdom survives. That was always the condition. She touched his arm. We will speak tonight. A guard entered with urgent news. Caspard's cell was empty. The prisoner inside wore a dead guard's face mask and Caspard's clothing. Marianne had confessed because he ordered her to. The records they celebrated were forged. The real Caspard had left the city before sunset. And, while bells rang for a false victory, 3 northern clans raised his banner. The celebration outside continued. Inside the balcony shadows, Marianne took Robinson's hand. This time, neither believed they had much time left. If Marianne and Robinson's forbidden bond has already captured your heart, subscribe to the OrcBond saga and stay with them through the danger still ahead. And tell us in the comments, would you choose the person you love or sacrifice that love to protect an entire kingdom? Caspard declared Marianne corrupted by human influence. 3 clans joined him. 2 remained loyal to Kelric. Selene controlled the capital guard. The kingdom stood one command from civil war. Kelric renewed his marriage proposal before the council. If you marry me, Stonejaw stands with you. And if I refuse, the wavering clans may choose Caspard. Do you want this marriage? I want the kingdom united. That was not my question. Kelric held her gaze. I care for you, but I will not pretend you look at me as you look at him. Robinson stood near the chamber wall. Their eyes met. Kelric saw. Choose by morning. After that, others will choose for us. That night, Marianne summoned Robinson to her private chamber again. No chains, no guards, only rain against the high windows and 3 candles beside the hearth. Robinson remained near the door. What will you do? He asked. If I marry Kelric, the clans may remain united. That was not my question. Marianne almost smiled at the borrowed words. What do you want me to say? The truth. I am queen. I know. I cannot choose only for myself. I know. Then why do you look at me as though I'm already leaving? Because you are. She turned toward the window. Robinson stepped closer. If you marry him, I will help you defeat Caspard. And afterward, I will leave. Her shoulders stiffened. You could remain as my guard. No. Why? Because I can survive poverty. I can survive hatred. I cannot stand outside this door while another man shares the life you made me imagine." Marianne's hands trembled. She hid them behind her back. Robinson saw. "What are you afraid of?" The answer escaped before pride could stop it. "Losing you." The words shocked them both. "I have feared losing battles. I have feared rebellion. I have feared waking to news that another village burned." She raised her eyes. "I never feared losing my heart because I did not know anyone could hold it." Robinson's anger broke open around grief. "What do you want without the crown?" Marianne moved toward the hearth. "I want your cottage repaired properly." He waited. Except for one sailcloth patch above the table, the rain sounded different there. Robinson's throat tightened. "I want a chair large enough for me. That may require an entire tree. Use 2. He smiled. "I want an herb garden, river plants beside mountain roots. 1 day each month without titles? No messengers, no generals, especially no generals, no burned bread. That was the fault of human flour." Robinson laughed softly. Marianne's eyes filled. "I want a market beside the river. I want a school where human and orc children learn one another's names before inheriting reasons to hate." She stepped closer. "I want to wake beside someone who sees the woman before the ruler." Robinson swallowed. "Kings inherit kingdoms." Marianne touched his chest. "Good men build homes." Silence settled. She raised his chin. Robinson closed his eyes. For 2 long breaths, Marianne did nothing. He believed fear would make her withdraw. Instead, she kissed him. The first kiss was careful. Her tusk brushed his cheek. She immediately pulled away. "Did I hurt you?" "Only my dignity." "You possess very little." He laughed. She kissed him again. This time restraint gave way. Her arms closed around him. Robinson's hand rested against the repaired strap at her waist. The crown, clans, and rebellion disappeared for several breaths. When they separated, Marianne kept her forehead against his. "I do not know whether I can choose you. I will never ask you to abandon your people. Will you abandon me? I cannot promise to remain while you marry someone else." The truth left no safe path. Marianne moved to the small table where his father's copper ring lay. She opened a hidden seam inside the band and placed a thin strip of engraved metal within it. "What is that?" "Names. Emergency laws. Everything Caspard fears." She hung the ring around her neck again. Robinson watched. "You are planning for your death." "I am planning for uncertainty." "That is not the same thing." "No." He took her hand. "Do not turn yourself into a sacrifice before anyone asks." Marianne looked down at their fingers. "You sound like me." "That should concern both of us." They sat near the fire. For the first time, the private chamber became something other than a political room. Marianne told him about Tarek stealing honey from the winter stores. Robinson told her how his father once repaired a nobleman's helmet so badly the man could not remove it for 2 days. Marianne laughed until her eyes watered. Robinson watched her. "What? I wish the court could see you like this." "No." "Why?" "This belongs to you." The words silenced him. Marianne leaned her head against his shoulder, though the size difference made the position awkward. Robinson adjusted. "You are uncomfortable," she said. "I am adapting." "To my size?" "To the fact that the Queen of 7 Clans has decided my shoulder belongs to her." "Does it not?" "Only 1 day each month." She smiled at him. A horn sounded outside. Celine entered without waiting. "Caspard has 12 children, 6 humans, 6 orcs." Marianne rose. "Where?" "The Hall of Bridges. He demands you, Caelric, Robinson, and the peace delegates before dawn." Caelric arrived moments later. He saw Robinson close to Marianne. He saw her loosened hair. He saw the human's hand still near hers. Understanding entered his face. For 1 breath, Robinson expected violence. Caelric looked at the message. The children come first. That choice became the beginning of respect between them. Before leaving, Marianne fixed Robinson's loose collar. He covered her hand. "After this," he said, "after this." Caspard's voice suddenly came through the speaking tube hidden in the wall. "My queen." The chamber froze. "You built a beautiful future." His voice remained soft. "I wonder which part Robinson will mourn first." A click sounded beneath the floor. Smoke began filling the lower corridors. Caspard had not merely invited them into a trap. He had already entered the palace. The hall of bridges stood above an underground river beyond the northern wall. 2 stone walkways crossed the chamber. The captured children knelt beneath the central arch. Caspard waited behind them. Marianne stood beside the gate mechanism. Marianne entered with Caelric, Celine, Robinson, and the peace delegates. Caspard bowed. "My queen, no gloves tonight?" she asked. He lifted his bare hands. "I wanted you to see there was no poison." Explosions shook the foundation. Iron gates dropped over the exits. Water thundered beneath the floor. Hidden soldiers attacked from upper galleries. Caelric fought toward the children. Celine held the Orc passage. Robinson ran for the counterweight system. He understood locks, mills, and broken machines. The mechanism held 3 supports. One controlled the human bridge. One held the Orc exit. The third supported the roof over the children. Someone had to hold the central lever manually. It had been built for Orc strength. Robinson reached it anyway. Marianne saw what he intended. "No. Mara." She crossed the chamber and threw him onto the human bridge. Robinson struck a stone. Marianne seized the lever. The bridges lifted. The roof steadied. Caelric cut the children's chains. Caspard attacked Robinson from behind. Robinson blocked the knife with his repair hammer. "You were nothing before her," Caspard said. "I was enough when she needed me." Love made her weak. "No, it gave her something you could not control." Caspard struck him across the face. Caelric moved to help, but a falling beam separated them. Celine took a spear through the thigh. Smoke filled the chamber. Marianne's arms began trembling. Caspard drove Robinson toward the bridge edge. Marianne released one hand from the lever. She drew her sword and threw it. The blade struck Caspard through the shoulder, pinning him to a support. The mechanism dropped. The stone cracked overhead. Marianne caught the lever again. Blood ran beneath her gauntlets. Caelric freed the final child. The delegates crossed. Everyone could escape, except Marianne. Robinson ran toward her. Celine caught him. "Let me go." "No, I can hold it. You cannot." "Then help me." "Her order is to get you out." Across the gap, Marianne looked at him. The entire court saw what existed between them. Not corruption. Not a weakness. Love. Robinson shouted, "We had a future." Marianne's face broke. "Yes, the chair, I know, the garden, I know. One day without titles." Tears moved through rainwater on her cheeks. "I know." The support cracked. Marianne tightened her grip. "Do not let them remember me for the wars." Robinson stopped fighting for 1 second. "Make them remember the peace." Mara. For the first time she smiled as she had beside the burned bread. Then the floor disappeared. The river swallowed her. Robinson screamed. The hall collapsed. Marianne crawled from behind the mechanism. She seized Marianne's dagger and forced it into Robinson's stunned hand. Then she screamed, "The human killed the queen!" Caspard's soldiers entered through the upper tunnel. They found Robinson kneeling beside the broken bridge, with Marianne's blood on his clothes and her dagger in his hand. Celine was unconscious. Caelric had seen Robinson fighting near Marianne. The children could barely speak. Robinson did not resist the chains. Something small fell from the shattered platform, the copper ring. Marianne placed her boot over it. She leaned close. "She chose you." Her smile held no softness. "Now both worlds will hate you for surviving." Far below, Marianne struck black water. The current dragged her through stone channels beneath the ruined hall. Her armor caught against a broken beam. She tore free, losing part of one tusk against the wood. The river carried her into darkness. No one saw her reach the old drainage chamber. No one heard her cough water onto the stones. No one knew the queen was still alive. Marianne's body was never recovered. After 2 days, the council declared her dead. Black banners covered the capital. Orc warriors struck weapons against the ground in mourning rhythm. Human shops closed. Funeral fires burned along the mountain roads. Robinson was not allowed to attend. Caspard declared himself protector of the clans. He accused Robinson of manipulating Marianne, poisoning her judgment, and murdering her when she attempted to end their forbidden relationship. Human lords spread another lie. Marianne had planned to betray the Peace Council, and Robinson killed her after their conspiracy failed. Both worlds chose the same enemy, a poor guard with no family, title, or army. Robinson sat inside an iron transport wagon believing one accusation: failure. Celine had died because he trusted Caspard. Marianne had died after saving him. Celine had been wounded protecting him. Everyone he cared for became another hand, slipping from his grasp. The convoy entered a pine ravine at dusk. Masked soldiers attacked. Celine rode beside the wagon, her injured leg bound to the saddle. She still did not know whether Robinson was innocent. Then one attacker shouted Caspard's order, "Kill the prisoner before trial!" Celine heard. She cut Robinson's chains. They escaped through the trees. At an abandoned charcoal hut, Robinson collapsed. When he woke, a blanket covered him. Celine sat beside the door. The image returned him to the cottage so violently tears came before he could stop them. Celine looked away to grant him dignity. Marianne wrote me a letter before the hall. Robinson could barely speak. What did it say? That loyalty does not mean agreeing with the crown. If she died, I was to protect the truth even from the next ruler. Celine's voice hardened. I hated you. I know. I watched her choose you. She chose the children. She chose you too. Robinson closed his eyes. Yes. They returned to the burned remains of his cottage through the smuggler tunnel. The roof had collapsed. The onions were blackened. The wooden bird had fallen into ash. Robinson found it near the doorway. One wing had burned away. He cleaned it with his sleeve and placed it inside his coat. Celine found a paper strip inside the listening pipe. It smelled of burned bread. Robinson almost laughed. They heated it. Marianne's handwriting appeared. The copper ring carries the law no advisor can burn. The ring was gone. Marianne had taken it. They followed her into the abandoned mill. Marianne waited with assassins. Celine was captured. Marianne held a blade to her throat. You can pursue me and recover the Queen's evidence, she told Robinson, or save the captain before the mill burns. The old Robinson would have tried to do both. He would have delayed until both were lost. This time he chose. He pulled the water gate and flooded the lower floor, dragging Celine clear while fire consumed the mill. Marianne escaped with the ring. Celine coughed beside him. You chose badly. No. You may have traded peace for one life. Marianne died because she believed one life mattered without making the others worthless. That is not a strategy. It is the difference between leadership and arithmetic. The mill roof collapsed. They believed they had failed. Kelric emerged from the trees. Blood covered his bronze armor. Marianne's sword rested in his hand. He opened the hollow pommel. A narrow strip of engraved metal fell into his palm. The ring Marianne carries is a decoy. Marianne hid the true decree here. Robinson stared. It names Caspard, Marianne, corrupt commanders, and the human merchants funding the raids. For the first time, Kelric looked at Robinson without contempt. She trusted you to choose a person without abandoning the world. Stonewake Fortress would gather the clans at sunrise. They had one night. Robinson touched the wooden bird inside his coat. He remembered Marianne feeding the crow while believing no one watched. He remembered her hand on his collar, her forehead against his, the future described in the chamber. Selene watched grief hollow him. "She loved you," she said. Robinson's jaw tightened. "I know. No, I do not think you do." He looked at her. Selene continued. "She spent her life choosing kingdoms. With you, she learned to want a home." Robinson lowered his head. Then Caelric revealed the final trap. Caspard recaptured the children from the hall. Robinson went still. He will execute them at dawn and claim you ordered it. Marianne had fallen to save 12 children. Unless Robinson reached Stonewake before sunrise, even her sacrifice would become another lie. Far from the fortress, inside an old border monastery, Marianne woke beneath wool blankets. Her body was covered in bandages. One tusk had broken near the middle. A scar crossed her shoulder and ribs. An elderly human healer sat beside her. "You have been unconscious for 6 days." Marianne tried to rise. Pain forced her down. "Robinson." The healer hesitated. "The human guard? Where is he?" "Wanted for your murder." Marianne stopped breathing. The healer explained that Caspard controlled the roads. Soldiers searched every village for anyone claiming the Queen survived. Returning openly would bring the Protector's army to the monastery before Marianne could stand. She closed her eyes. For the first time since childhood, Queen Marianne allowed herself to cry without hiding it. Not for the throne, not for the kingdom. For Robinson, who believed she had died. Stonewake Fortress stood above the mountain pass. Orc armies gathered beneath it. Across the valley, human soldiers prepared for invasion. Caspard had sent each side false reports that the other attacked first. Robinson, Selene, and Caelric entered through an abandoned mine. Halfway inside, assassins attacked. Caelric took a spear through the shoulder while protecting Robinson. Robinson broke the shaft with his repair hammer and packed the wound with mountain moss. Caelric watched him work. "Why save me?" "Marianne respected you." "I intended to marry her." "She respected you anyway." Caelric gave a rough laugh that became a wince. "The marriage was never possession." "I know." "No, you do not. I cared for her. But she never looked at me as she looked at you." Robinson asked, "Then why propose?" "I confused being useful with being loved." Robinson looked at him. So did she. So did you. They continued. Near the fortress gate, Marianne captured Selene. She sent a message. Robinson could bring Marianne's decree to the courtyard. If he revealed it, Selene and the children would die. If he surrendered it, they would live until after the invasion. Caelric said what every commander would say. 2 armies outweigh 13 lives. Robinson remembered Marianne holding the lever. He also remembered her fury whenever someone chose sacrifice on another person's behalf. He formed another plan. Caelric hid the true decree beneath the bronze seal of his armor. Robinson carried the empty copper ring. He entered the courtyard alone. Thousands of warriors filled the terraces. Caspard stood before them wearing Marianne's black cloak. Selene and the children knelt beside him. Across the valley, human signal fires burned red. Robinson raised the ring. "Release them." Caspard's voice remained soft. "You would exchange a kingdom for 13 lives?" "No." "Then what are you doing?" "Making you believe I would." He threw the ring. Marianne opened it. Empty. Caelric entered the upper platform and broke his armor seal. Marianne's decree fell before the elders. Caspard ordered the prisoners killed. Robinson attacked Marianne. He used a chain, a fallen shield, and the narrow space between pillars. Selene struck her captor with the iron restraint around her wrists. Caelric read Marianne's evidence aloud. Payments, false raid orders, names of merchants, elders, and commanders. Then he revealed the truth Caspard had hidden for years. At the border, past bridge, Tarek had told Caelric to make certain Marianne built something worth his death. Caspard heard those words and ordered Caelric to remain silent, claiming they would weaken the young queen. He allowed Marianne to carry unnecessary guilt because guilt made her easier to control. The elders turned. Caspard attacked Robinson. He was stronger, trained, and desperate. Robinson fell twice. On the third attack, he reached Marianne's sword. The blade stopped against Caspard's throat. Robinson could kill him. Celine wanted it. Caelric expected it. Every part of Robinson's grief demanded it. Caspard smiled. Do it. Become the war she died preventing. Robinson heard Marianne's final request. Not the wars, the peace. He lowered the sword. Caspard lunged. Caelric struck him from behind and forced him down. Robinson demanded a public trial. A dead traitor becomes a legend. A living traitor surrounded by proof remains what he is. The elders ordered Caspard and Marianne chained. Signal fires changed from red to white. Across the valley, human commanders halted their troops. The war ended minutes before sunrise. The freed children approached Robinson, carrying a bent golden crown recovered from the ruins. Inside the band, Marianne had carved 2 words, our hearth. Robinson held it against his chest. He believed it was the final message he would ever receive from her. In the border monastery, Marianne listened as a trader described what happened at Stonewake. Robinson had refused revenge. He had saved Selene instead of chasing the evidence. He had chosen peace before searching for Marianne's body. At first, the truth hurt. Then she understood. He had not abandoned her. He had trusted the future she wanted enough to finish the work only they understood. The healer asked whether she wished to send him a word. Marianne looked at her broken tusk, scarred body, and hands too weak to hold a sword. Caspard's remaining allies still hunted anyone claiming she lived. The treaty was fragile. If she returned too soon, both sides might accuse the other of hiding or controlling her. She wanted Robinson, but she had learned from him that wanting someone did not give her the right to endanger them without choice. So Marianne remained hidden, not forever, only until she could stand, travel, and return as herself, rather than as a wounded symbol others could seize. She began sending help from the shadows, a warning written in invisible ink inside bread wrappers, a corrected treaty clause in handwriting disguised by a monastery scribe, a repaired leather strap delivered anonymously to Selene, a carved wooden bird left outside Robinson's temporary quarters. Robinson recognized each sign. He never knew whether they came from Marianne, someone following her plans, or his own grief searching for patterns. But every message used one word, hearth. For 3 years, that word kept hope alive even when reason told him she was gone. The Marianne Accord was signed at the rebuilt river mill. It opened trade roads. It created mixed patrols. It established shared winter grain stores. It required investigations before retaliation. It funded the school Marianne imagined inside her private chamber. The first shared word taught there was hearth. Peace did not erase prejudice. 3 clans refused to sign. Several human villages closed their markets to orcs. Selene survived 2 assassination attempts as commander of the mixed border guard. Caelric lost warriors who called compromise weakness. Robinson was offered Marianne's temporary throne. He refused. The human king offered land and noble rank. He refused those too. Caelric found him after the council. You risked everything to change 2 kingdoms. Why reject the authority to protect that change? Robinson looked at Marianne's bent crown. She did not die, so another person could decide the world belonged to him. He accepted only the position of border witness. For 3 years, he completed Marianne's plans. The river mill reopened. A market grew beside it. The school taught children to pronounce karoth without accidentally saying boiled goat's stomach. The first time a child made Robinson's old mistake, Selene laughed. The laughter became a sob. Robinson laughed and cried beside her. Caelric carried the shield, whose strap Robinson repaired into every peace council. He never mentioned the repair. He never replaced it. The small things remained. A blanket placed over someone sleeping near a door. The larger portion of bread moved quietly between bowls. the smell of burned dough, wooden birds carved during children's lessons, the word hearth appearing in anonymous notes Robinson could never explain. 3 years after the treaty, Robinson returned to the riverside cottage. The stone walls had survived the fire. He rebuilt the roof, but preserved one patch of sailcloth above the table. Rain would always sound the way it had on Marianne's first night. Marshroot grew beside winter onions. The wooden bird hung above the door, one wing still blackened. Inside, Robinson restored the small chair Marianne had nearly broken. In the corner stood the larger chair he had promised to build. It remained unfinished. He had tried to complete it many times. Each attempt ended with him staring at the empty seat until the tools became too heavy. Robinson lit the hearth. Pinewood cracked softly. Rain began tapping against the patched roof. He placed Marianne's iron band on the stone ledge. Beside it, he placed his father's copper ring. Then he rested her sword beneath the larger chair. A folded blanket lay across its back. Finally, he placed the bent crown on the seat. For a long time, he could not speak. He remembered her hand gripping his shirt in the rain. The crown sinking into mud, the hair caught around his sleeve, the button is sewn with gold thread. The blood wiped from her tusk. The bread moved between bowls. The private chamber, the almost kiss, the first kiss, the chair, the garden. One day each month without titles. A future real enough to mourn. You asked me to protect the peace, Robinson said. His voice broke. I finally did. Someone knocked. Robinson did not turn. Come in. No answer. He looked toward the door. Another knock. He rose slowly and opened it. A tall figure stood beneath the rain. For one heartbeat, Robinson believed grief had finally become madness. Marianne ducked beneath the doorway. She looked older. A long scar crossed one side of her face and disappeared beneath her cloak. Her right tusk had broken near the middle. Her hair was shorter, threaded with silver at one temple. She wore no crown, only Robinson's father's copper ring around her neck. He could not move. Marianne looked past him toward the unfinished chair. A familiar smile touched her mouth. Your chair is still too small. Robinson's breath left him. Mara? She swallowed. I had hoped you would remember. He crossed the room in 2 steps, then stopped before touching her. His hands shook. Are you real? Marianne lifted one of them and placed it against her scarred cheek. I am. Late. Robinson's eyes filled. 3 years. I know. You were alive. Yes, you let me mourn you. Pain entered her face. I could not stand. Caspard's allies searched every road. The treaty would have shattered if either side believed the other had hidden. Me, you could have sent one word. I sent many. The wooden birds, the hidden treaty. Corrections, the bread wrappers. Hearth Robinson stared at her. That was you? Most of them. Most? The goat stomach message was Celine. Despite everything, a broken laugh escaped him. Marianne's eyes filled, too. I wanted to return every day. Why did you not? Because I had spent my life deciding that love gave me the right to control danger for other people. She touched the old iron band near the hearth. You taught me that it did not. Robinson's anger and relief collided inside him. I thought you were dead. See, no, I built your school. I saw it. You saw it. From the hill above the mill. You were that close. I was not strong enough to come down. Robinson turned away. You're pressing both hands against the table. Marianne waited. She did not command him to forgive. She did not step closer until he chose to turn back. Do you still love me? She asked. The question sounded nothing like a queen. Robinson looked at her broken tusk. Scars, wet cloak, and frightened eyes. I spent 3 years trying not to. Marianne's face fell. He crossed the room. I fail every day. She made a sound between a laugh and a sob. Robinson touched her face. This time, there was no crown, no counsel, and no hidden. Only the woman who had come home. Marianne rested her forehead against his. I promised myself, one day without titles, one day each month, we have several years to recover. That is a great deal of lost time. I know you will need to help finish the chair. I will supervise. That was not the agreement. I am. Queen. No, Marianne blinked. Robinson smiled through tears. Not today. Her expression softened. Then what am I? Mara. He kissed her. The kiss was not careful like the first one. It carried grief, anger, relief, and 3 years of unfinished hope. Marianne's arms closed around him. Robinson held her as though letting go might return her to the river. Rain drummed against the sailcloth roof. The crow pecked the window. Neither noticed. Later, Robinson warmed soup while Marianne sat beside the hearth. She examined the unfinished chair. It truly is too small. You have not sat in it, I can see. You have become more demanding. I nearly died. That appears to have increased your confidence. She smiled. Robinson placed bread beside her bowl. The pieces were uneven. He gave her the larger half. Marianne quietly moved it back to his plate. Robinson returned it. She moved it again. After the fourth exchange, they both began laughing. Outside, wagon wheels crossed the river road. A human grain cart traveled beside an orc iron caravan. 2 children sat at the rear, arguing over the final piece of bread. The orc child tore it in. The portions were uneven. She gave the larger one to the human child. The human child examined both pieces and quietly pushed the better portion back. Neither knew they were repeating the smallest habit of a queen and a forgotten god who had changed 2 kingdoms inside the cottage. Marianne pulled the blanket over Robinson's shoulders. You are shivering. I am beside a fire. You said that once. It was true then. It was not. Robinson looked at her. You remember? I remember everything. The crown still rested on the unfinished chair. Marianne glanced at it. Then she turned it upside down and placed the bread bowl inside. Robinson stared. That is a royal crown. Today it is a bowl. You spent your entire life protecting that symbol. Marianne reached across the table and took his hand. Today, I'm protecting this. The market bells rang in the distance. Humans opened stalls beside orc traders. Children crossed the river toward Marianne's school. Mixed patrols walked roads once marked by burned villages. The peace remained. Imperfect. Some people still preferred hatred because hatred made power simple. But the world beyond the cottage was no longer empty, and neither was the chair beside the hearth. Queen Marianne had discovered her god's secret love and summoned him into her private world. In the end, she returned not because a kingdom needed her. She returned because, for the first time in her life, home was waiting. If Queen Marianne and Robinson's journey touched your heart, subscribe to the OrcBond Saga for more emotional stories of impossible love, courage, and second chances. Now tell us in the comments, which moment made you believe their love would survive? Marianne discovering the hidden bandage, their confession inside the private chamber, or her return beside the unfinished chair?